Sometimes problems in marriage are just unavoidable, and every single couple should expect to hit some kind of rough patch in their relationship, to argue, and to whatever else. So I'm going to go over some of the biggest mistakes that people make in marriage. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about the basic stuff like don't cheat and don't gamble your life savings away or don't hit them. All this stuff is obvious, and if it's not obvious, then maybe you shouldn't be married right now. So we're going to skip over that stuff and go into some of the things that happen more often that people don't really speak about. One of the biggest ones being people sometimes rush into marriage out of desperation. They think I'm getting old, or I'm not going to find anyone, or this is my best shot, or I'm not going to get anyone with this amount of money or who looks that good, and they rush into some kind of marriage. And it's not always a weird or bad thing. Sometimes people might think, well, I just want to protect myself. I want some kind of halal relationship, and I don't want to fall into anything haram, so let me just get married. And even though there's good intention behind it, if you don't actually vet the person you're speaking to, you might set yourself up for failure. And this doesn't mean that you're marrying a monster. It could just mean that you're marrying someone who's not compatible with you. And not everyone who's not compatible with you is going to be bad. It just means that they're different. So it's better to take the time and get to know them and really make sure that the person you're marrying is someone who is good for you and someone who you are good for. Another really big marriage mistake people make before they're even married is not talking about the big life choices with their partner. Sometimes not talking about how many kids you want or where you want to be in life in the future or what the next 10 years of your life are going to look like really breaks marriages. Let alone guys not talking about things like polygyny. If a guy is serious, if you're a man and you're serious about being polygynous, I don't just mean like you're talking about it, like you're actually serious about it. If you're looking to get married to someone and you want to be polygynous, you have to speak to them first and make sure they're on the same page and decide right then and there, am I going to be polygynous with them or am I not going to be polygynous? And there's no right or wrong answer. If you want monogamy, like fine, whatever. If you want polygyny, fine, whatever. There's nothing wrong with it. Both are halal. As a Muslim, if you can do it, you can provide, there's no problem. So make sure you discuss it first. And that is the same again for how many kids you want to have, for what kind of career you want to have. If you're a man, if you don't want your wife to work, you have to mention these things beforehand. It doesn't work to kind of bait them in and then switch afterwards. You can't be like, yeah, I want to live this kind of life, and then all of a sudden change it and just think to yourself, it's okay, they'll adapt over time. That is not right. That's misleading. I can't say it's haram because I don't know, but it's not right. You can't mislead people like that. Another big mistake, especially in the 21st century, is being too self-centered. A lot of people are just really, like, they think the whole world revolves around them. And sometimes speaking to people like that makes you want to like grind your teeth against concrete. But all of us need to realize that the world is bigger than us alone, and that we have other people we have to care for and we have to worry about, we have to live with, we have to harmonize with. So that means you have to put yourself aside every once in a while. And it's important to focus on yourself when you need it and say, hey, you're not paying attention to this very important thing that I need. Sometimes that stuff is necessary. But if that's all you do, then living with you is going to be horrible. I'm sorry. You have to be a person who can put yourself aside for the greater good. And sometimes you have to do it twice, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, 100 times, when it is fitting, when it will help the relationship and when you can afford it. And if you have a situation where both the husband and wife are willing to put themselves aside and focus on the other, you're going to have a good relationship because both of you are focusing on the other person and making sure that they are happy. And if you're making sure your partner's happy and your partner's making sure that you're happy, you're both gonna be happy, inshallah. Another really big mistake people make is they go to like red pillars and feminists for marriage and dating advice, which I don't understand, because feminism will teach a woman not to get married and red pill will teach a man not to get married. So to get religious or marriage advice from any one of these groups is baffling to me. I don't know why people go there. It is quite literally the equivalent of going to a dumpster for medical advice. On the surface, it might sound nice, like the feminists will tell the women like, oh, you get your rights. Islam gives you rights. You should fight for your rights. And that's like, yeah, obviously. But then they'll trickle you down this weird system where it's like, now you don't have to listen to your husband at all. Why even get married? Why even listen to your husband? Who cares what he says? This stuff is moronic, I'm sorry. How are you going to have a functioning household if someone's thinking like that? And on the other hand, you'll have men who go to red pill. And on the surface, it's going to be like, you know, just maintain your frame. Just have a strong mind. Just work out, get fit, make a lot of money. Love your wife, but like don't be too attached to her. And like all these nice sounding things. And it's like, yeah, obviously. Then they'll trickle you down to all these other things like don't have kids, just get a vasectomy. Don't give her too many gifts. Play these games with her. Give her the cold shoulder. Get a bunch of side chicks. Disappear in the middle of the night and have her wondering for 3 weeks where you went, and then come back to tell her that you were climbing Mount Everest and fighting bears because you're just such an alpha sigma male. In all honesty, the best place to go for marriage advice are Muslim sheikh who have experience with marriage and marriage counseling. Because a lot of the time, solutions to marriage problems are very simple. Sometimes it's just something basic like just listen to your spouse. They're telling you that they don't like when you do this, this, and that. Just stop doing that. I swear a lot of the time, like, that's the issue. Sometimes people, especially like particularly the wives, will get really emotional, like, and they'll have a flare up, and the guy might need to just listen, hear it out, let it pass, and then after like an hour, it's not a problem. Sometimes a woman might go to her husband and say, I need you to do this for me, I need you to do that, and then the man's busy with work or he's busy with a project or whatever, and he forgets to do it, and the woman might get worked up, like, I told you to do this 3 times, and screw it, I'm just going to do it myself. And you have to understand, the guy's in his own zone, he's doing his own project. Maybe he was going to do it tomorrow night, or maybe just remind him at night when he's free. These things really aren't issues. With that being said, another big mistake people make is they inflate things, overcomplicate things, and make things bigger than they are. A lot of people will read into things and be like, they said this with this tone. They said it in this way. They said this, but it didn't sound like they meant it. Come on. Can we like relax for a second, please? Don't make problems out of nothing. There are some real issues that exist sometimes, right? You don't want to make stuff up as you go. You don't want to read too much into things and inflate things and create problems where there aren't any issues. So it's best to just always assume the best of your husband or your wife. If you assume the best and you look at them in the best of manner, 1, that will positively affect the way you look at them. And 2, it'll also positively affect the way they look at themselves. If you assume the best in others, especially your spouse, they will begin assuming the best of themselves as well. And that's the best world. But if you start dogpiling issues and problems and insults and everything onto your wife or onto your husband, they're going to resent you, they're going to resent themselves, they're going to feel like a horrible person or a horrible husband or wife, and it's going to break the relationship. So sometimes you got to just roll with it, go with it. Inshallah, everything will work itself out. Stay close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pray your Salah, fast your Ramadan. Make sure Allah is your number one priority, that the deen is your number one priority. Get closer to Allah with your spouse together, and that will bring both of you together as well. Remember each other's rights and your responsibility towards your family, towards your husband, towards your wife. And I guess that's it. Assalamu Alaikum.